Thank you all for joining us this evening. Aloha. Welcome to the Interfaith Open Table. This month's event is called The Big Me, A Religious Problem. We have a page now with the Interfaith Alliance of Hawaii website. So if you're looking for our rest of our programs, future programs, they are available on the Interfaith, www.interfaithalliancehawaii.org, and then scroll down to the Interfaith Open Table and you'll see our listings of programs. And our March program has been released now on our YouTube channel, and it's also, the link is on the website also. If you have an issue, or if you know anyone else who has a policy issue that they would like to bring to the open table for discussion, we have our monthly planning sessions on the first Wednesday of the month at the Harris Methodist Church on Vineyard and Wanu, and in classroom 10 at noon. And we usually have about 4 months in advance planned out. We're working on September and October's programs now. So we're always interested and open to new ideas. This program, the Open Table, is affiliated with the Interfaith Alliance of Hawaii, and we usually have a program presentation and then a panel that we pose questions to respond to the presentation. So tonight's presentation is by Tom Lynch, and he's, as I said, doing the big religious problem. And our panelists are Molly Sperry from the Baha'i.
No, it's the National Baha'i Center, but we're a new one.
And Deborah Von Dupson, who is an intern minister and very involved in the education. So we'll proceed now with the presentation.
Okay. I'm going to wait for Cynthia for just a second, and you're going to handle this, won't you? So this is the big me, and I'm framing it as a religious problem, because actually it's a societal problem, but I think it's something that the religions of this country and hopefully the world can deal with. So you go to the next slide, please. So this presentation discusses 2 types of human consciousness. Get out of the way a little bit here. 2 types of human consciousness. Egocentric, which we are labeling the big me. We picked up that idea from David Brooks, and I'll mention his book later on. But he used the big me, and we added the big us, because one has to have some sort of parallels in the world. And the big me is a very egocentric person, and the big us is a very selfless kind of person. The ego consciousness kind of person is especially narcissistic kind of person, is this, and I point out, is dysfunctional to the purposes of religion. And frankly, this functional in terms of the purposes of having a civilization. And I know that might sound strange in today's world of American politics, but that's actually been in the literature for quite a while before we even realize that other people that get large offices have. Could you go back, please? And selfish consciousness, which is consistent with the Golden Rule. And the Golden Rule is something that most of us may not appreciate. The Golden Rule actually exists in almost every other religion in the world. It is differently worded, but it is in existence in all of them, almost all of them. I say almost because I don't know one that isn't, but there must be one. This presentation argues that religion needs to promote and establish self-consciousness training. In other words, when it comes to this kind of effort, this kind of situation, you need to understand that this is a problem that can be trained out of. In other words, you can actually help people at the younger age, even a person that's quite a bit older, can learn not to be egocentric. It's a trainable problem, so it can be solved. Next one, please. consciousness changed. I love this quote from George Eliot. We are all of us born to moral stupidity, taking the world as an udder to feed our supreme selves. That's absolutely a wonderful quote. However, in time, some live by the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay, next one.
I did.
Oh, okay. The human consciousness choice, egocentric consciousness, you live by what I refer to as the ego rule, that is do unto others before they have a chance to do it unto you. The self-consciousness is the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Next, please. If you use the ego rule, you are the big me. You fail to address your own weaknesses, you fail to increase your various strengths, and do not realize that your harmful biases do impact others and ourselves. You cannot contribute your full potential to society or even to yourself. Value, pleasures, and comforts are having a deep caring and commitment to others. The big me ethical test. For the big me, that they maintain they have an innate, good, true self. That they know it's there. They don't know how it's there, but they know it's there. That guides and tells them what is right and wrong in this world. The impact of their action on others, which can be called non-consequential thinking, is not a consideration. They just don't think about others, except in terms of how they can be manipulated. And that is a test of that you can always tell a person if he is a very strong, big me person. Next one, please. Big me considers themselves the vessel of human capital. They are the center of the world. Not about character, but a list of talents that one cites on a resume. For example, he's a hard worker, is a talent, not necessarily a virtue. The big me character is not selflessness, generosity, and self-sacrifice. It is showing grit, resilience, and tenacity. The big me is about me, my mind. You do not question yourself, but be sure of yourself. Know what you deserve is a lot. Do not hold back, be shrewd. Next one. In contrast, the big us consciousness, if we have a consciousness of the big us, we recognize we can always improve and increase our wisdom. You have an inner self which draws upon acquired wisdom reserve, which is fed by life's experiences and our holy scriptures, and is our best guide to tell us what is right and wrong. We realize that our biases do impact others and ourselves. We can and must contribute our full potential to others, and we have a deep caring and commitment to the oneness of us all. Today's Western culture encourages the big me, and strongly encourages it. Excellence is measured by money, by possessions, by status. Its central values are being materialistic, individualistic, less emphatic to others, and focus on the personal. It is morally inarticulate, meaning having only a moral relativism with no basis to judge or argue values with others, and having no moral vocabulary to even discuss ethics. Resume versus eulogy virtues. It's sort of, if you're talking about the big me, you're talking about resume virtues that are knowledgeable and skills and experiences you bring in today's job market. But there is such a thing as eulogy virtues. They're about old-fashioned character, relationships and family and friends, caring for others, honesty, faithfulness, and bravery. It's essentially what we have is two amazing and I think rather dramatic mindsets. And two people that I've noticed in my readings have talked about this. One is Rabbi, and I can't even begin to pronounce his name. But he bases his mindset and the discussion of the two mindsets on Genesis. He says in Adam 1, which is at the very beginning of the Genesis, someone who builds, creates, produces, and discovers. Remember the two brothers. The second brother, Adam 2, someone who puts others ahead of himself, obeys transcendental truths, is guided by a soul that honors creation and the person's possibilities. The Christian mindset is based on, it comes from the New Testament. You have two ideas there. One is what is, and it's a theme that just runs through the New Testament. One is called the kingdom of man mindset, someone with an egotistic, materialistic consciousness. The second is the kingdom of God mindset, someone who wants to learn and build and live their inner character based on their wisdom reserve. And this is a simple chart that describes it. The big me, as I mentioned, is referred to by Brooks, who works for the New York Times. And he says the big me is a egotistical person with resume virtues, and the big us, which he didn't label, but I have, is about eulogy virtues. And a Jewish friend is Adam 1 is egotistical, and selflessness is Adam 2. In the New Testament, you see the kingdom of man, which is egocentric, and selflessness is the kingdom of God, sometimes referred to as the kingdom of heaven. Next verse. Mindset directs thinking. Only a few without training can switch from the big me to a big us mindset. It's possible to do so, but it's not going to be easy if you don't have some training in this area. Most people can switch their mindsets with training. Such training can avoid mind control and still help a person create a big us mindset. If they're skilled egocentric, they have the ability to hide their prejudice well, are skilled in telling others what they want to hear, and use distorting information, I think you heard the word these days, false news and false facts, to serve their interests. The skilled egocentric is the use of their intelligence to rationalize effectively gains their own self-ends, so they can rationalize to get there to their self-ends at the expense of others. You use very articulate arguments sometimes for their ends, and even sometimes use altruistic language. The skilled egocentric, they are skilled at being dominant or subordinate in their behavior while combining both effectively in the manipulation of others. They're also called predators and malignant narcissists. They are a danger to themselves and to others. Now, there's three types of narcissist followers, and I thought this was particularly interesting when I found it in the literature. There's the potential, the followers, and the pawns or sidekicks. The potentials have a weak sense of self and have few boundaries. The second type of follower is called followers, are groomed, seduced, and manipulated to the reality of a narcissist. Then there's the pawn and sidekick. They are codependently engaged, overly loyal, compliant, passive, unaware that they no longer have free will. The narcissist group dynamics. We now live in a society that promotes self-entitlements and selfish pursuits to such an extent that words such as responsibility and compassion are no longer applied. It sets people to believe that it's all about me now, and form a cult of I and me. Narcissist characteristics. They camouflage themselves very well physically, emotionally, cognitively, socially, and even religiously. They position themselves as gods, persons with the last word, and the most important contributor in any conversation. They are skilled at morphing into a false self. Their bodies are deadened to feelings of compassion, empathy, love, and morality. The narcissistic leaders are deceptively dangerous people who can appear sane, rational, and even charismatic. They do achieve success, and even remarkable success. They're deceitful, manipulating, self-serving, lying, and potentially criminal. I don't know who they're referring to there. Seeking, you don't either?
Totally at sea.
They seek power, status, wealth, and symbols of success. Selfless, conscious, religious training. The objective of trying to deal with this is to have some training, and there can come in many forms. What I'm just suggesting is a possibility. The objective of this training would be to form a mindset that gives them life directions for constructing the ability to see and hear their own life's lessons that form a loving heart and a wise soul. It should be in small group sessions, like you have for an AA group or something of that nature, sponsored by religion, use skillful facilitators, and motivation. They need to motivate the trainees to stay in the training, especially for older people. The prime rule is each trainee must discover, learn, and acquire their own selfless consciousness. The stages of growing consciousness before the training experience, they are a definition of experience in life, and they're have to think about the life lessons they're gaining from life. And when they get into a training session, it should be small groups, every person identifying their most important life lessons. And this can be done on a weekly basis, monthly basis, but it should be done on a regular basis. Training 2, trainees share their insights on the lessons. So you listen to a lesson, you say, well, what happened in your lesson? And you say, okay, is there a wisdom that you can deduct from that, from what happened to you? And then you say the next thing is, well, now that you think we understand the wisdom behind the lesson, how are we going to bring it into your life? How is it going to be a part of your life, this lesson that you've learned, this wisdom you've gained? Would you go back, please? Training 3 is trainees identify their inherent wisdom from each lesson and grows into selfless consciousness. And after the training, each trainee applies that acquired wisdom in the present and the future life. Resources for training, certainly the most important is human awareness. The key thing is you just got to be aware of what's going on and the lessons that are going on. You have to grow a self, and you have to have the goal of trying to grow a selfless consciousness, or at least a lot better than it's been in the past. Storytelling is in a small group setting is very useful. In other words, we all have stories. We ask what happened in your life that's really telling to you, and then you try to work with them to understand what that lesson is and the wisdom behind it. You need a very good facilitator. A facilitator that can curb cross-talking and can move along in a direction that's necessary, but at the same time bringing the lessons out from the people, not giving the lesson to them. The stages in developing selfless consciousness. They need to have the theory that goes with it, and it's pretty well established. This is some of the books that we used, one of our own. The one by David Brooks, I think, is particularly interesting. It was a fun read, and we certainly enjoyed it. Next one. Now we use this particular PowerPoint in a book that we're in the process of writing. And additionally, we've made a presentation on this topic at academic audiences both in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Australia. Now, thank you very much. We'll get to the group now, our panel, and members of the audience.
So most religious traditions have in their wisdom literature something that refers back to the Golden Rule. Friends of ours in Toronto have mapped it to, I think, 72 different religious traditions in 6 languages. And so can you speak a little bit about your own faith traditions, interpretation or use of the Golden Rule? We'll start with Arthur.
Thank you. In Buddhism, in our particular school, we have something called the Golden Chain of Love. And this refers to a chain of all the Sangha members around the world who are Buddhist, who work to employ the Buddhist teachings and to live in a way where they acknowledge the interrelationship and interdependence of all life. These are 2 laws that the historic Shakyamuni Buddha revealed upon his enlightenment. The first things he talked about was, these were not laws he made up, by the way. These were laws he became aware of as a Buddha. And the first was the interrelationship of all life, the interdependency of all life, and change. An example, interdependence, we constantly live under those rules of interdependence. We depend on other people to do things for us, and other people depend on us to do things in our lives for them. So that interdependence is constant. But it happens with the family, with your community, with the state, with whichever group you're in, and this is something you're always involved in. Interdependence, well, let me see. give you an example, a very simple example. Did you make the car that you drive? Did you grow the food that you eat? Did you make the clothes that you're wearing? And the answer would be no, because there are hundreds and thousands of people involved in bringing those things forward so that when we go to the store, we can get these things. So the interdependence is constant, And so we try to remind our Sangha members, our congregation, of the basic laws of Buddhism, which are interrelationship, interdependence, and change. Change is the great bugaboo because it's something we cannot control. You know, they say that there's only death and taxes that are constant, but actually, in actuality, change is constant. And the way we sometimes suffer is by denying that, not accepting change as it comes into our lives. It's very difficult. But as was shown on the slides, all of these things have to be employed by the individual. The individual has to become aware of those things. And once the individual becomes aware of them, then he can share that with others. He can share it with others, she can share it with others, and on and on and on. It's a process like anything else. So the important thing for us is to become aware of the interrelationship, the interdependence, and the reality of change. You see nowadays a lot of mindfulness groups. Some of them are religiously associated, some are not. But it is part of the process of becoming aware of who you are and what you are. And this is vital. That way you become aware of what you're doing in your life, how your life is being affected by others, and how you affect others' lives. So this is a constant thing that we strive to do, become aware, mindfulness. Some of our Buddhist people, like the Zen people, they use meditation to develop mindfulness. Other schools use different ways. You see, you've seen a lot of different schools of Buddhism, and that comes from the fact that the historic Shakyamuni Buddha taught for 40 years, which is quite a long time. And every day, from the day of his enlightenment on to his death, he taught to make people aware of what it is to be a human being. So you see the different schools. The different schools will, the ultimate goal in Buddhism is enlightenment, which means you become attached to infinite wisdom and boundless compassion. On your way to that, you have to train yourself. And it takes constant training, constant awareness. So the Zen Shu will use meditation as to develop their awareness, their mindfulness. In my school, True Pure Land School, we use recognizing the truth of the teachings in our lives, in our everyday lives. So, and these teachings, as I say, are vast. The Buddha taught many ways to become enlightened, because we are all different. We're not all the same. Some people need to meditate, some people need to concentrate, some people need to recite mantras and things of this nature in order to bring themselves to enlightenment. So each of these schools takes a segment of the Buddha's teachings, and they use that segment as a methodology to become enlightened. And we have 4 sutras or 4 teachings of the Buddha, book teachings. Zen Shu has 2 or 3. Nichiren has the Lotus Sutra, which they depend on. Shingon uses different teachings of the Buddha. But it's like creating many, many pathways up to the same mountain, up to the same goal. which is enlightenment. Very difficult. This is not like getting a PhD. A PhD is easy compared to enlightenment. Excuse me.
No, that was very interesting. So I come from the Baha'i faith, and we are very aware of the fact that the golden rule is represented in all these different faiths in some form. And I think that it really is the basis. We understand that these religions, we believe they all came from the same source. Our particular religion, founded by Baha'u'llah about 174 years ago, has the golden rule is expressed in not just taking care of making sure that you're equal in what you give to the other person, that it would be fair, but you prefer your brother over yourself. So it's kind of a step up from the golden rule. And we think it's foundational, actually, in faith.
So, David Brooks, in his Road to Character book, was really addressing. He was doing adjunct teaching at a university, teaching ethics, and it was largely his observations of Gen X, Gen Y, and millennials, and their penchant for resume building rather than what he calls eulogy building, which is character qualities. He would say it's known as eulogy. He was a loving man. He was a kind person. They would rather say that they're efficient and effective in their work rather than kind and generous and loving. So, do you see in your students or in your congregations, do you see this in this generational divide, or is it that your teachings for the children at an early stage are circumventing this whole phenomenon of the Western
culture? I'm glad you talked about that, because as I was thinking about your concept of training, which was dealing with almost adults and a retraining. And I feel that religions, certainly within the Baha'i faith, but I see it in all faiths, they teach those virtues. They teach a relationship to God. They teach a purpose in life. They're teaching service. They're teaching a care and compassion to others right from the beginning, right? And I know we talk about prayers when they're in the womb, and you know you start right then, and it's like the mother's milk and this relationship with God. And so I think that training is innate in every religion, and is and the golden rule, I feel again, is like the purpose of all faiths. It's involved in, it's the function. I think you call it function. So and we are for the Baha'is around the world. We're looking at that the junior youth age, this 11 to 14. Because that seems to be this time when they're deciding what kind of people they're going to be. And so we have a program called a spiritual empowerment. And it's really about asking those questions that you were talking about, and bringing that awareness at that early age. And we're understanding how capable young people are. And then we're looking to the youth to grab hold of these things and understand this materialistic world that isn't going to make us happy. And it's not about our purpose in life. So as for Baha'is, we believe that the purpose in life is to know and to worship God, and to build a better world. So right away, we're training the children to be of service to their community, of their families, and that outward. It's not all about them. That's, I'm sticking to it.
Well, in Buddhism, I would have to say I'd add one more thing to that. What you said is that Buddhism is a religion of responsibility. Being responsible for how you act, how you are. I can't blame it on the Buddha, I can't blame it on the devil or anything like that. It's me. In the golden chain of love, it starts, I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that what I do now depends not only my happiness or my happiness, but also that of others. So, when I talk about thinking, speaking, and acting, these are the three karmas, or the three actions that we always put out. And so, as for the children, this is a very important reading, because it tells them to be responsible for what you think and what you say and what you do. Because you can hurt other people with what you say and what you do. And you can hurt yourself also. So, responsibility is a very important part of Buddhism. Learning what it is to be human and accepting that. In Buddhism, there are three enemies that we call three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. If you look at any kind of conflict, whether it be in your home or in the world, you will find one, two, or all three of those elements. And that's what causes a great deal of suffering in this world. But as Buddhists, we have to look and find them in ourselves first, and then work on that. And when we have improved on that, then we can share that with others.
Just one comment, partner. And when you said the goal is enlightenment, I always think of enlightenment not as so much as an end thing. I think of it as a growing thing. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
Enlightenment, as I understand it, is when the Buddha became enlightened, he became privy to the storehouse consciousness. Storehouse consciousness is the storehouse of all knowledge, all wisdom. And it is infinite. And he can spend his life exploring that and using it. The boundless compassion is a compassion that we are not capable of. Anything we can do as human beings is limited. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. It is limited. The Buddha's compassion is boundless. It has no boundaries. You might ask, well, would Adolf Hitler have Buddha be compassionate to him? Yes, he would. Because the Buddha would understand why that man was the way he was. See, in describing Buddha, which means enlightenment, he described it, I saw it in the description on a bell. It said, Buddha is not God. He does not create. He does not destroy. Buddha does not judge. He does not reward. He does not punish. Buddha simply offers enlightenment. And yeah, I think it's an ongoing process of discovery, because, as I said,
So we're on for Thursday, right?
So, one last thing, and then we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions. The fastest growing statistic in the U.S. Census is spiritual but not religious. So I think my question is, people are identifying with a spirituality, with a belief, with a seeking, with a yearning for something, but they're turning against institutionalized, organized religion. So how can, let that thought for a second. On the other hand, Hans Kuhn, writing for the United Nations, has said only the world's religions can bring a unified ethic to the world. So with these two diametrically opposed conditions now, where people are turning away from the institutionalized church or temple or synagogue, and yet it's only the organized religion that can bring about major change in the world, according to that set of research. How do we reconcile this for organized religions, faith traditions, to be more attractive to people, more, I want to say welcoming, but more relevant to people in the 21st century?
That's a very interesting point that you're making, and I think I mentioned before that the Baha'i faith is a new world religion, 174 years old. It came out of the Middle East in Iran, I want to share the tenets a little bit with you because it recognizes that for us there's just one God, and that all these major prophets that established world faiths are from that same divine source. That's our belief. And when I listen to you, I just think, yes, this is, I just see such the absolute truth in what he's saying. And that's what a Baha'i perspective. With this renewed ancient religion of God comes new social principles for this day. And they are things that intellectually we have begun to understand. And one is the oneness of mankind. In my lifetime, I think that intellectually we've come to the understanding that we are family of man. And I've seen that in my lifetime. Not that we can live it out, that's worth finding out. But it's also, Baha'u'llah said that men and women need to be equally developed. They are, equal in the sight of God. They're not just the same, but they need all the same privileges and development so that our world can prosper. And that's beginning to be understood intellectually. But what is not understood is the unity of religion. And Baha'u'llah brings that wisdom to our world. We are ones that believe that it is these faith groups, that is where we're going to bring peace and love and unity to our world. And it's now up to the religions to say, I don't really care how you baptize your child, but look at the heart of those religions. So if you just look at the heart of the religious teachings, they all seem to say that the spiritual world is more important than the material. That I love this eulogy. Those things, and that as we move on, those eulogy qualities, those are what religions teach. These are the most important things. And so I'll keep that in mind, that phraseology. Nevertheless, who knows where it was, I've lost my train of thought. I'll just pass it to you because
Passing the buck.
I am.
Well, it's true that those things are happening. People, I think, got to the point where they were thinking that all that the organized churches were money mills, looking for money all the time. And they became distrustful of them and just wouldn't go. But the fact is, any organization needs money to exist. But some may have overdone it. But at least they're reaching out for something. Because I know there's people out there looking for answers. Whether it's in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or Buddhism, they're looking for answers. When I came back from Vietnam in 1967, I had one question on my mind, and it was the same question that the Shakyamuni Buddha had, strangely. I was trying to find out why we suffer so greatly. Why do we suffer? Why are all those people over in Vietnam suffering? And I included all the allies too, because everybody was suffering. And I started looking at different religions. I started searching. Now this is a very personal search, and when you get to maybe a certain age, in your 20s or 30s, you may go on that search. Because only you can identify what's good for you. The power of being in a group of people who have a similar belief is very important. It's very important because it verifies what your beliefs are. And you learn from them and they learn from you. That's the same thing in any congregational sangha. As individuals, I think, although we are all unique, I would not take that away from anyone, we are all unique. But I think as human beings, we share more than we think. And I think most of the differences we put between ourselves are put there by ourselves. They don't really exist. They're illusionary. The way I learned about Buddhism, interestingly enough, was I went to a Buddhist church in Denver, Colorado, and through their actions, through their conduct with each other, I learned about the interrelationship and the interdependence of all life. Because nothing in a temple, nothing in a church or a synagogue ever happens without the cooperation of the congregation. Most pointedly, the women's organizations. They're usually the strongest in each temple. Yeah, nothing gets done without the cooperation and the interdependence and the interrelationship of people. And people are looking for that. There are people out there who are looking for that. And so they may come to a temple. And as far as getting people to come, I don't know what that answer is. But the way I started going to the Buddhist church was I was at a caretaker at the Denver Buddhist temple, talking with the caretaker during a festival they had there. And he said, we're not going to be open during August, but we're going to start services in September. Why don't you stop by? And I've been going ever since. It's as simple as that. It could be that. You know. But we do not, as Buddhists, impose our beliefs on other people because we don't know what's good for another person. Only you know that. So for us to come and say, well, you want to be a Buddhist. No, you can't do that. I don't live your life. Only you can answer what religious path you need and how you want to actuate it.
May I just say one more thing?
Sure.
I just, the Baha'i faith too understands individual responsibility and choice, and one of the tenets is in individual investigation of truth. It's that mindfulness and to keep looking and evaluating until you find that truth for yourself. But I wanted to say in connection with your question, I think the world is, we see it falling apart, disintegrating around us. And I have sort of this belief that we're going to hit the bottom, and then out of that, because already people are becoming more conscious of, like we're surprised, oh my gosh, this is happening in our world, and people are thinking in these ways that don't correspond with our personal religious beliefs. So I think that it will throw people into the search, and I think about my own development, my own timing, being the age that I am. So civil rights, it was so appallingly wrong. It was just in our face, and we weren't gonna, young people at my age, we weren't going to have this. It was wrong. And so I'm thinking that the world is getting to that point, and people will rise up and grab hold of these values that I actually believe they're innate with everybody. And maybe they've forgotten.
I've been doing a lot of reading lately on the concept of awareness. And to me, I think it's a matter of people not understanding. It's what you were saying earlier, both of you were saying earlier, that it's a matter of oneness, it's a matter of knowing that you're a part of everything else. And a lot of folks don't think that way. And that is a matter of just being able to see and understand. After we're born, and then the next few weeks, months, sometimes years, we tend to be very much egocentric. We tend to worry about our food, we tend to worry about being cared for, about being lonely, and so on and so forth. But to reach that other understanding that your awareness has to be larger than yourself, for some people they don't get there. They just don't get there. And I think that has to be the important role that religious institutions have to play, is to help people begin to see as early as possible, I agree, that it's not about you, it's about us, and it's about you, of course, but it's about you in the context of all of us and the interrelationships. I think if you look back through human history, a lot of the times that when we started out thousands of years ago, we thought of ourselves in terms of a family or a set of group, a small group of people, maybe as immense as 20, maybe 30, 40, but maybe not that big. And our minds were put our boundaries in terms of it's me, and then you grow a little bit larger, and then it's your family, and then a little bit larger, it's your clan. What has happened in human history is that we've done remarkable things because we actually have some understanding of interrelationships. And you're absolutely right about talking about where do you get your food from? Where do you get your car from? Where do you get your news from? Where do you get anything from? It's from others. And we're beginning to see that. But sometimes that other sense starts to come back, or begins to dominate our thinking. That part of our brain, that the brainstem, is what first forms us, and what we all have, and it's hardwired. And that's when we think about survival instincts. And when you're in a war situation like Vietnam or anything else, it's a war, it's a survival instinct that you have. To be able to think beyond me to us is really tough for a lot of folks. And that has to be what religion has to communicate, is that it's to help people broaden their awareness to realize it's about all of us, and it's about compassion for all of us. And that is, frankly, the key to the whole story. And I've gone to too many churches and too many places where it was purely about me that they're talking about. Not the person's talking to you now, but about them themselves. They can't get beyond their bodies. And they can't get beyond thinking that I'm really important and you're really stupid. And that is what church has to deal with. How do you get to them and help them understand that is not going to be functional for us to go on and have a civilized society. That's what Carl Jung was talking about. That has to be the road of religion, because religion is where you can teach something like that. And hopefully in religion, in congregations of one kind or another, these people are thinking in terms of being seekers and try to encourage people not to say, look, I've got to make code, I'm the greatest lady in the world. No, I am a person that's a seeker. I'm a person that has to grow. And as you pointed out with enlightenment, you have to grow and grow and grow. And there is no end to it, it's infinite. And that is the kind of spirit that we need to create in all the faith traditions. And if we can achieve that, I think it's going to be meaningful. Too many churches today do it in a social sense. How are you, Margaret? How are you, baby? How are you, Joe? How are you, Tom? How are you? No, it's a matter of trying to think in a larger way. And what you have to have from the pulpit is trying to communicate that larger way of thinking, larger way of having compassion, that larger way of understanding it, which is part of the one. But of course, we're an important part of the one, because we are co-creating with each other in the interrelational situation. And that's the beautiful thing about life. That's the beautiful thing what a religion can do for you. And I think your two religions are doing it, so congratulations.
Okay, don't you feel, yeah, you too. Don't you feel that if every religion went right back to the what we call the manifestation, right back to the founder of their faith, and read those writings, you can't help but, it talks about compassion and taking care of the poor and the oppressed, and it's just innate with all those writings. I think that if they went back to those writings, they will get that message to their congregations.
You're talking about the basic teachings.
I am.
And the first Dharma talk, or the first lesson of the Buddha, was the Four Noble Truths. And the first noble truth was there is suffering in life. It's not all suffering, but there is suffering in life. And the reason, second noble truth, the reason for that suffering is insatiable desires. We are never satisfied with anything, ever. Third noble truth, there is alleviation from that suffering, cessation desires. And the way is the Eightfold Path, which gives a methodology of how to live your life in the best way possible. And of course, the realization of change. But people don't want to hear that. Oh, it's so negative. But if you reflect on it, if you think about it, if you think about the teachings in your own religion, you have to be a participant. You can't just sit there and listen to the pastor or the priest. You have to use your mind to reflect on the teachings that are coming to you and see how they exist in your life. And that way they become real to you. You can't live by someone else telling you how you should be.
I wanted to say something about the training model that you were proposing, because I think as we've gotten bigger and big corporations and big cities, and the success of learning is happening in small groups where you can discuss, you do participate, even with children. I think when you have that, when you engage them in such a way that they're participating in their own education and they're participating in these discussions in small groups. Also, I think the Baha'is, but I think many organizations are understanding that the work is done in neighborhoods. The work, that's where it's happening. It's not in your big congregation churches, because that's not really where the deep learning goes. And that's also a place where you can apply, right, what you were also saying in your training model. You take your experiences, it happens, you reflect on it, you act differently, and you move. Anyway, so I feel like that is that's the model that I think is going forward. And even in development, they're looking at not funding projects that, the funds and the plans all come from the top. No, they're looking for these plans that come from the neighborhoods, from the communities, and show the sustainability. And then they will fund that. And it's about relationship. We have a visual aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just one point is I think small groups are very important, but I also think the facilitator that you have in the group is critical. Because what can happen in a small group is, let's say you have 10 people, all of a sudden two people talk, and then 2 other people talk, and it's not a group anymore. It's 2 people plus 2 people plus 2 people talking, and they're not really talking together and thinking together. The facilitator is the key to the whole process, and the key to that person as a facilitator often is to be quiet, but when they start to stray off of the rules, like crosstalk, they have to interject. Or they want to start talking about the latest football game. Sorry, that's for another place. And so you have to have a facilitator that keeps it going. And anybody that starts to yell and scream or go crazy and start to be using uncivil behavior, the facilitator has to be there to stop that kind of nonsense. So, but if the facilitator does his or her job correctly, you don't even notice the facilitator. The group. You notice the group, but you don't notice the facilitator. That's the kind of situation you have to have. It's a very useful approach, but you have to have the right kind of knowledgeable person knowing how to do it. And I think Arthur's going to show us something.
I am here representing the bishop of our temple, so I got to give him his 2 cents here. A while ago, there was the springing of the Black Lives Matter movement, and during that time when there were so many apparently constant shootings of black people and stuff like that, a kind of impromptu march was developed here in Honolulu, and they asked the bishop to take part, Bishop Eric Matsumoto. And so here he is marching with some of the ladies. One's a Muslim, one's a lady of color, and we are just acknowledging the sadness of what's happened, the tragedies. And at the end of it, he was asked to say a few words. So he said this: "May we realize that often we do not address the deep causes which lead to suffering and act only upon the conditions. We must look deeper. We may realize that much of the suffering we find in the world arises from each of our own self-centeredness. We need to go beyond our own individual egos, whether it be my own personal ego as an individual, as a member of one ethnic group, as a citizen of one nation, and sadly, sometimes, even as an adherent of one religion, and aspire equally for the peace and happiness of one and all." And that was his aspiration at the end of the march. And I think it kind of says a lot.
I think that would be a wonderful note to close this conversation. Thank you all very much for coming. I'd like to announce our next open table event will be on drugs in Hawaii, and it will be on Tuesday, July 18th at 7 o'clock at the Harris Methodist Church. And given the cuts that we're all anticipating in healthcare and everything else and civil service, I think this is going to be a very important dilemma that we're going to have to deal with. So I hope you can make it. And we have refreshments, and we can continue the conversation together. So thank you very much. Thank you.